All right, everyone. Hello. Welcome in. We're talking about the Ohio State spring game, something that didn't happen last year, joined by Whitney Harding. So, Whitney, there's a lot of things to break down. No tackling in this, so we can't really
Right.
get much from the run game. But where do you want to start with this?
I mean, I think we'll start where everybody wants to start. That's the quarterbacks
Hmm.
because it's the first time we've seen all three of them in the most game-like situation. And one thing I thought was very interesting. I mean, CJ Stroud has had the most experience in games, so clearly he looked really good.
Yeah.
Jack Miller, I mean, touch and go, but
Yeah.
Kyle McCord really impressed me today.
For sure. I mean,
Yeah.
both of those guys really put on a heck of a performance. McCord, 2 touchdowns. I think Stroud had two as well, maybe three. He also had a really good start, 10 of 13
Yeah.
in the first half. That's something that really stood out to me.
Yeah.
Where else do you see on the defense that was impressive?
I mean, Jack Sawyer, as advertised. He
Yeah.
really was as advertised, finished with 3 sacks. So we put sacks in quotes, I guess, because you couldn't tackle. But he had 3 sacks, a pass deflection, and was just very disruptive in a way where you weren't allowed to tackle, which I think is even more impressive when you can't tackle and you can still be kind of an impact player defensively, for sure.
Who else on the defense do you think stood out?
I mean, it was just, to me, Taraji Mitchell looked really good. He had a couple tackles for loss, and he's a guy that we really wanted to see step up and get better. And I think this is a real chance for him. The linebacker group is really thin this year with losing all of those experienced guys. So it's going to be really interesting to see who of the young guns kind of steps up. And I thought Taraji had a really good performance in this one, for sure.
We look at that position, and linebacker is something that it might be a concern this year,
Yeah.
and it was not in the past. You know, you lose guys like Baron Browning, Pete Werner, Tough Borland, the list goes on and on.
Right.
4 guys last year that had more than 150 games at Ohio State, and now it's a new crop of guys. Luckily, those guys aren't young. You have 3 guys that are seniors this year. Mitchell is one of them. So that's not maybe a position that you should be concerned about, even though they lost all those guys last year. But one concern is definitely going to be the defensive backs. Did you
Yeah.
see anything from them that you liked or didn't like today?
There were some good plays. There was actually a touchdown that was made where it looked like Jackson Smith and Jigba. Kyle McCord made a great throw and Jigba made a great catch. But if I forget, I think it might have been Martinez was the quarterback. I can't remember. The cornerback. I can't remember. If he had turned his head, he could have easily had a pass deflection. And
Right.
that's the kind of stuff that as they get more of these kind of in-game reps and know where to kind of have their body awareness and things like that, they're going to get a lot better. Now, there were some important D-back guys that weren't playing today, like Seven Banks. And those kinds of guys that we haven't, that we know kind of what they bring, but they still could use some more reps. So it's going to take these D-backs a little bit of time to kind of get used to what this is like. The good thing is they go up against some pretty good wide receivers every day,
Yeah.
which
Oh,
is the
man.
position we don't have to worry about.
That it's unreal how many dudes that those guys have. It's one of the takeaways that I wrote in this web story that's with
Yeah.
the video we're doing right now. It's just unfair how
Yeah.
many good, talented receivers Ohio State has. Of course, you've got the guys that are coming back in Chris Olave, and then you have Garrett Wilson. We know about them,
Right.
but there are some true freshmen that are amazing. I mean, you talk about Emeka had a great game today, and
Very
so did Marvin Harrison Jr. Those 2 guys are going to stand out.
Mm-hmm.
Jamison Williams comes back this year. It's really, like I said, it's just unfair how good they are at that position.
And we're going to hear from Marvin Harrison Jr. coming up here from the players that are going to be speaking and kind of, I think it's really the first time we've gotten to really talk with him and hear from him. So it's going to be really interesting to see what he has to say. One of the first guys to lose his black stripe, which for those who don't know means full-fledged member of the Ohio State football team. It's really an honor. It really says that not just the coaches, but your fellow teammates believe that you have put in the effort and you're showing what you need to do above and beyond. So not a surprise he did as well, but I think still that first grab he made, everybody kind of went, whoa. This kid's real.
I want to go back to the defensive backs real quick because Olave had a great catch early in the first quarter, but it was over top of a guy who switched from receiver to defensive back,
Yeah.
and that's Damario Mccall. He's a guy that is trying to find a spot for himself on Ohio State's team, and receiver is hard to do, as we just talked about. So he's trying to get to that cornerback position where Ohio State is a little thin, especially with Seven Banks not playing in the spring this year. He hopefully have him back in the fall, and I think they will, as well as Cameron Brown, who tore his Achilles against Penn State last year. So right now, they're very young and inexperienced. So a guy like McCall is trying to step up in a different position. He misplayed that ball, and it got taken over the top of him.
Right.
But don't be surprised to see other guys that you haven't heard before or haven't seen before try to play in that position, as well as safety. We know what Josh Proctor can do.
Yes.
But then outside of that, you look at, okay, it looks like Ryan Day's
Ryan
coming
is
up
here.
right now. We'll go to him.
Started out with Austin Ward. Austin, go ahead. Hey, Ryan, I think probably the priority for a coach is just to stay healthy through this, but what excited you most out there today?
Yeah, I mean, the number one goal is to come out of this thing healthy. I thought we did that. We kept guys for the most part upright. Held my breath on a couple plays, but we had a really physical spring, and I would say it was great to get out there and get in the stadium and play. But I think the most exciting part was getting back in the stadium and seeing the best damn band in the land, having some fans around, and just it felt almost normal out there today. And just want to thank the band for being out there. It made it feel like we were back in the shoe again with a full crowd. I know usually we're used to about 85,000 for a spring game, but even 20 was nice. I know that there were a huge demand with the students. I really appreciate the students coming out and doing their part, even though there wasn't as many out there as they would have liked. And I know they sold a couple extra tickets, so appreciate the students coming out. But I'm just hoping that thing's full when we come back against Oregon here, and not too long.
All righty, let's go next to Nathan Baird from Cleveland.com.
Ryan, can you assess what you saw from your quarterbacks today, all three of the guys in the competition to start?
Yeah, very similar to what this whole spring's been. Some good, some not so good. A lot of learning opportunities there. We tried to get a little bit of a 2-minute going at the end of the half, some red zone stuff. All learning. You can see when you watch, there's flashes here and there, and then there's just learning opportunities. And the more these guys can prepare and work in the film room and just grind in the meeting rooms, the better they're going to prepare and be ready for those moments. And they've learned a lot, but now the race is on over the next few months to figure out who can make the next stride so that they're further along. Spring's been good. There's been a lot of progress made across the board, but still a long way to go before we play against Minnesota.
All righty, let's go next to Bill Rabinowitz from the Columbus Dispatch.
Yeah, I think I'll ask about Jack Sawyer. 3 sacks today. He didn't look like a guy who didn't play last year, coming off a knee injury. What are your impressions of what he did this spring and today, and what kind of role could he have?
Off to a great start for sure, and he's earning more and more reps. He's working his way up the depth chart. I think across the board, our D line was solid this year. We have some good depth there, but Jack in particular came in with a lot of confidence, and he's made a lot of plays. And what you saw today was pretty much most every practice out there. So if he can keep building and getting stronger and keep building, then hopefully he's going to have an impact and be able to participate here early in the season. And we have a couple big games early on, so the more depth we have, the better off we're going to be.
All righty, let's go next to Bill Landis from The Athletic.
Ryan, we talked with you a lot when you had Justin about the balance between wanting to be aggressive and also, taking your check downs and being smart. I'm wondering how that factors in when you have a quarterback competition where you're just trying to create game situations. And do you want these guys to be any more aggressive? Because it seems like maybe some more learning opportunity can come from that.
It's a great question, and we talk about it all the time. You can't go out there and win the job on one play. It doesn't work that way. And so if you're trying to force the action, you're going to get yourself jammed up. I mean, when it's there, you got to take your shot. Like you said, you got to be calculated. And when it's there, you have to be aggressive. But a lot of times it's cutting your losses. And, we talk all the time when we watch film, if there's a play where it's, 1st and 10 and maybe there's leakage up front, throwing the ball away, that's a great rep. And it doesn't feel like it at the time when you're competing for a starting quarterback position, but those are good reps. But all of those things are being taken into consideration because it's not about winning the day. It's about winning the job so that you can go now help us win. And there's been a lot of those learning opportunities. And as we start to game plan different opponents, we'll do that a little bit more. We'll talk about this is an opportunity for us to take a shot. This is something where we're thinking about being more conservative. Right now, we're just trying to learn the offense and understand where the ball goes and just the system of offense.
All right, let's go next to Dan Hope from 11 Warriors.
Yeah, Ryan, just obviously, you saw CJ, for a year, this is Kyle's first time playing in the shoe, but just for both of those guys to, have 2 touchdowns today, no interceptions, have the kind of consistency they did, how pleasing is that for you as a quarterback coach to see them, have that kind of performance?
Yeah, I mean, it's all part of it. I know that's really the only thing you guys have seen, but we take the entire 15 practices and evaluate all those things. But when you're in the stadium and you're in a game environment with fans, how does that affect your performance? I mean, if there's a change, then we have to figure out why. But for the most part, we've seen a lot of things that guys have flashed, and there's a lot of things that go into, a lot of positive things happening, what's going on in the game, if we're getting good protection, who the receivers are. I mean, there's just many of those things. So this was just a very small glimpse at, a bunch of guys taking some reps, but there's a body of work that needs to be built from that first spring practice all the way through the first game that, still has yet to be written.
All right, let's go next to Patrick Murphy from 247.
Ryan, we saw some of the young wide receivers kind of step up, especially the freshmen today. But we also saw Chris and Garrett make plays. You guys have such depth, such talent at that position. Last year, you weren't able to spread that around. What is the focus going to be going into next year to get the ball to all of these different guys that you've got available?
Well, I think they all understand that it's a team game, and the number one goal is to win the game. So, I've never heard any of those guys talk about getting their touches or getting theirs. It'll come naturally if they just work. One of the things that we've been focused on this off season is just, fundamentals, blocking, all the little things when the ball's not in your hand, and they've done that. And because of that, they end up getting more balls. It just works that way. But I do think the young guys have had a great work ethic. They have a great mentality and approach, and that's a good thing. They're providing depth, and the sooner those guys can come along, the more depth they can provide. They're only going to help the older guys get stronger, give them a break some point in the game so that then in the fourth quarter, they're at their best. And so I'm impressed with all the young guys. I think Marvin, Emeka, and Jaden have all shown that they have the ability to play this season. Now they're nowhere near they need to be. They got a lot way to improve over the next couple months, but a bright future there, I think.
All right, we'll do two more for Coach Day. We got Thayer Munford coming up for you. Let's go to Rob Aller from the Columbus Dispatch.
Hey, Ryan, you got so much talent on offense that you might think that the quarterback just has to be a game manager, but at this level, can you afford to just have a game manager, or do you have a guy that needs to be able to win games ultimately to go where you need to go?
Right. I think that first off, when you're just starting and you're learning to play the position, you can't do anything out of the ordinary. You can't try to do things other than make the routine plays routinely. Why? Because you have a really good offensive line, a really good tight end. You have really good receivers. You have solid backs. So in that moment, you don't need to do anything more than just make the routine plays routinely. And it's our job as coaches to put them in a situation to be successful and to show the best version of them. But somewhere along the line, when the game's coming down to the fourth quarter, they're going to have to make plays. It comes down to, like you said, not just managing the game. That's a big part of it. But if you want to go win the tough games and the tight games in the fourth quarter, you're going to have to make plays in a 2-minute drill. You have to throw really well in red zone, and you got to convert on third down. But, we're hoping early on that with the talent that's around the quarterback, that if he can just kind of keep the offense moving and get the ball into the right, skill players' hands and keep the chains moving, that's a great start. But like you said, eventually somewhere along the line, they're going to have to step up and win games for us. And so, but that's all part of the process.
All righty, and final question for Coach Day to Stephen Means from Cleveland.com.
Right. The running backs were heavily involved in the passing game today, obviously with some check down stuff, which we saw with Justin kind of evolve at the end of the year. But also, it seemed like you guys were drawing up some plays for those guys. When you've got that type of depth and some guys who can do some different things, what kind of aspect can that add to your offense? Yeah,
we're always looking for versatility at the running back position. And when you can run the ball physically and finish runs, then you can pass protect. And then the other part of it is, can you go run routes? When you can do those three things, you become very valuable on offense, and you become a weapon. And our guys are doing that. And you can see when we throw the ball, if those guys want to get off in the zone, we can check the ball down. That's getting a really good skill player the ball in space. And that's what we're trying to do ultimately. Whatever the scheme is, we want to create as much space as we can. And that's just another way to do it. Not that something we've done a ton of here, but with the quarter running backs that we have, we think that's something that, we could start to look into more.
All righty, Coach. Thank you very much for your time. Really appreciate it.
All right, guys. Thanks.
We'll bring in Thayer Munford here. All right, Thayer.
Thayer, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you.
All right, great. Thayer, thanks for spending a little time. For a little adjustment there, that's good. Let's start it out with Brendan Bluick. Brendan, go ahead.
Hey Thayer, we saw you on the social media channels earlier this week talking about how excited you were to get back in the shoe and play in front of 20,000 people. Can you give us an idea how today lived up to your expectations and what you were hoping to accomplish today?
I'm happy. I'm happy for our fans. You know, like even though it was like about a year and a half since we had fans in the stadium, it was very good to have them back in the shoe. You know, I know everybody was happy to see our fans instead of like an empty stadium. So I'm happy about that.
All righty, next up we'll go to Joey Kaufman from the Columbus Dispatch.
Thayer, you've seen Jack Sawyer throughout this spring practice, and Coach Day mentioned that he's had games like this throughout practices all spring. Were you surprised by what you saw today, or has he done this pretty consistently?
He's been doing it very consistent because he's been getting work with, you know, Coach Johnson, you know, Zach, Tyreek, you know, all the veteran players that actually have played, and he's been working, and he has a motor, you know, and I'm just happy that he's on our team.
All right, next up, let's go to Spencer Holbert of Monroe.
Thayer, how difficult is it to evaluate your performance and some of the offensive line and how the day went? How difficult is it to evaluate when you're just thudding up and you're not really getting to really get after it today?
I don't think that's very difficult because what we like, say for instance, like when we run the ball and we get like a big game, you know, I know how we did. You know, it could be perfect, yes, but at the same time, I know how good we are during the play.
Alrighty, next up we'll go to Bill Rabinowitz from the Columbus Dispatch.
Hi, Thayer. You've been able to watch these quarterbacks, block these quarterbacks all spring. Give me your impressions of where it stands. I know you're not going to, you don't know who's going to start, but just your faith in them.
You know, I feel very comfortable with all of them, you know. So, to be honest, like, it's very Tyrese. Like, it's nothing to be said about it, to be honest, because they compete. They compete, like, every day, every single day. They want to be perfect, but also at the same time, when they do sometimes make a bad throw, we all pick them up, you know. Like, I have my bad days, defense have their bad days, you know, and they're young too, so they think everything has to be perfect, but they need to take things slow, you know. So I believe that whoever's going to be behind us in the fall, like behind me in the fall, it's going to do tremendous.
All right, next up, let's go to Austin Ward, Letterman Monroe.
There, when you look back and evaluate, you know, these 15 workouts for spring, is there anything you feel like you guys didn't accomplish or still needed to do if you'd had maybe 5 or 10 more days?
You know, I think this spring for us was like one of our best springs. You know, like even though like last year we didn't have a spring, you know, we didn't have fans during the fall, you know, but this spring has been one of the best springs that I've been a part of. You know, I've been a part of like 3 now, so I'm happy where we're at right now, but at the same time, we're all not satisfied where we're at as well, because we got goals that we want to accomplish as well.
All righty, and last question for Thayer. We got Zach Harrison ready for you. We'll go to Nathan Baird, Cleveland.com.
Thayer, I guess just with the quarterbacks looking ahead to the rest of the offseason, what sort of has to happen? Are you all looking for someone to just give you guys something that you'll just know it when you see it, as far as like who ultimately wins this job, and how important is it that someone emerges and sort of becomes that guy who the rest of the team has that kind of ultimate confidence in?
And to be honest, like it won't take that long, to be honest, but I believe that whoever's going to be behind me or the starting offensive lineman, you know, when we play Minnesota, of course, like everybody knows it's going to be that guy, you know. But as of right now, I'm just happy where our quarterback's at right now.
All righty, Thayer, thank you very much for your time. Really appreciate it today.
Thank you.
Like I said, we'll bring in Zach Harrison, and then that'll be a wrap. All righty, Zach. Thank you. Thanks for stopping by for a little bit. Let's start it out with Tim May from Monroe. Tim, go ahead.
Thanks, Mike. I was wondering, Zach, you guys on the defensive side, what do you leave this spring feeling, I guess, as a group about how much y'all progressed and where y'all really need to progress?
Man, I feel great about our group on defense, man. Every time in practice we make plays and we're flying around, we're having fun together, and that's the biggest thing. We're playing as a unit, like the Bullets, all 11 guys, top to bottom. DBs to D-line, we're all flying around, making plays and having fun together, and that's how you make a great defense.
And is Jack Sawyer the real deal?
Jack? Yeah, Jack's real. Jack's legit. Jack's going to be a great player.
All right, next up, Steve Hellwagon, 247.
Yes, Zach, a lot was made about the pass defense for Ohio State after last year, giving up all the yards and everything. Just wanted to check in your thought. I mean, maybe not necessarily about today, because I know a lot of the terms of the scrimmage today kind of favored the passing game. But over the 15 days, are you pretty happy with the improvement that was made with pass defense overall?
Yeah, tremendously. I feel like we're a more experienced team than we were last year. Last year, like you said, we gave up a lot of yards. That's just the reality of it. We didn't play the greatest on defense, and we knew that coming in this spring. So defensively, we took that personal. So we know now, like the D-line, we know we got to get pressure on the quarterback. The DBs know they got to give us that extra second to get home. Same with the linebackers tied in. Either way, if we throwing blitzes in, the linebackers know we got to all work together, and that's how we make a good defense.
Thank you.
All right, we'll go next to Jeremy Birmingham, Monroe.
Zach, just as a person, as a player, it seems like you're out there having a really good time, and like your whole vibe has kind of changed. Pressuring the quarterback, yelling their name while you're running after them. What is different for you as just who you are right now off the field, and how is that translating to what you are on the field?
I feel like I'm just getting more comfortable. The more and more plays I get, the more and more reps I get, the more and more success I feel like I'm having in the spring, the more my confidence level builds up, and that's for everybody, and I feel like that's been one of the biggest things, really just the confidence level and the feeling comfortable in my skill set and what I do.
All righty, next up we'll go to Bill Rabinowitz, Columbus Dispatch.
Zach, one more about Jack. You said he's legit. It's pretty obvious for anyone who watched him today. What stands out to you about him? Maybe something behind the scenes that isn't even obvious from today.
No, all the things that stand out are pretty obvious. Jack's got great first step and a great bend around the edge, and that's something you really can't teach. So I think he's going to be, like I said, a great player at Ohio State.
All right, we'll just do a couple more and then wrap it up here. We'll go to Dan Hope, 11 Warriors. Dan.
Hey, Zach, just wondering what's it been like this spring, going up against these three quarterbacks and just watching them play, and kind of what's that been like from your perspective to kind of, have to go up against each of the three of them all spring?
I mean, yeah, to be honest, the quarterback doesn't really affect me. Once the ball snaps and I start my rush, what they worry about is behind me. So I don't really know who's making the best throws and the best reads and this, that, and the third. I got to get to them. But in terms of the quarterbacks, I believe in all three of them. So whenever Coach Day, whoever Coach Day says, you the guy, I got all my faith in him.
All righty, and last question for Zach to Patrick Murphy. Patrick.
Zach, I know you guys didn't have all your linebacker group today and guys were out throughout the spring, but replacing four guys there, how important are those guys to what you guys do up front, and how have you seen the guys that have been able to practice kind of develop this spring?
I mean, yeah, linebackers are the glue that holds the defense together, I feel like, and having good linebackers is something that's going to be a plus, and I feel like we have that. I feel like all the guys who I've seen in practice have been making plays, flying around all over the field, getting picks, interception, or picks, and causing fumbles, and chasing the ball carrier down, and just playing with tremendous effort, and that's all you really can ask for from your linebackers.
Awesome. Zach, thank you very much. Really appreciate your time today.
Appreciate y'all. Thank you.
All right, folks, that's a wrap. Thank you for your time, and this will be recorded and put on the box in the same spot that all the other recordings are.
All right, everyone. Welcome back in. That was it for Ohio State's spring game today. A lot of good stuff there, especially about the local kid, Jack Sawyer. I mean, how about the day he had? 3 sacks, a forced fumble. I mean, he's got guys talking about him like he is exactly what he was when he came into Ohio State, the #1 overall player in the country, and he played like it today. And just sheer force. I mean, he's pushing guys off the ball. It's obvious how talented he is. Now, Ohio State is very deep at the defensive end position, but if he keeps this up, he'll find himself on the field on Saturdays. The other things that we take away from this game is that C.J. Stroud really impressed, had 185 yards, really consistent in the entire game, and so was true freshman Kyle McCord. He had 184 yards. Both of those guys had 2 touchdowns. So right now, it's way too soon, right, to talk about who might be the starting quarterback, and it's such a small sample size that you don't really want to count any guy out or just say, okay, this guy's going to be the quarterback. But today, those 2 looked great. Jack Miller was shaky at first. He came back and completed, I think, 17 passes on 30 attempts. So I'm sure he would have liked to have had a better day. But like I said, it's such a small sample size. So don't read too much into this. Ohio State has been in spring practice for about a month now. So they know more than we do just based on this one game. And, yeah, I mean, I think between the quarterback battle, how Jack Sawyer performed, the defense looks really good. Mitchell at linebacker is going to be a force. And the other thing is just how many good receivers Ohio State has, especially those true freshmen. Emeka had 7 catches for more than 100 yards. And then Marvin Harrison Jr. had 7 catches as well, had a touchdown. The guys we know about, like Chris Olave and Garrett Wilson, had big days too. So Ohio State's going to be very, very deep and talented at wide receiver. I'm sure people would have liked to see a little bit more from Ohio State's ground game and their linemen because they lost Wyatt Davis, an All-American at guard, and Josh Myers, who played center last year. He was a finalist for the best center in the country. Replacing him will probably be Harry Miller, who's not playing this spring. He played guard last year and started at that position, but center is a natural position for him. He played that in high school. So you could see Harry Miller slide over to center, and then we're going to have Paris Johnson, the guy from Cincinnati who's a top 10 offensive tackle in the country, and he's going to go play guard, and he might be the best guard in all of America because of how good he is. His skills just translate to that position. So they're going to be set at offensive line, even though we didn't really get to see them today, especially in the run game. We'll find out, though, about who plays running back. With Trey Sermon leaving for the NFL, you've got guys like Master Teague and Mayan Williams who play the same, but you also have Travion Henderson, who's a true freshman and hopes to play this year too and is really good out of the backfield too as a receiver. So like I said, Ohio State's depth at a lot of positions is really good. The secondary is the biggest question mark, but we'll find out as we get closer to the fall how that group comes together and how Ohio State as a whole looks once the fall starts. So thanks for tuning in, guys. Appreciate it. And be sure to tune in today at 6, 7, and Pepsi Sports Saturday at 7:30. Complete coverage. Jared Smalley inside the horseshoe today. So a lot of good stuff coming up on NBC4. Take care, guys.